visual artillery support during the battle, medical airlift of the critically wounded, photo reconnaissance, military reconnaissance. They also ferried saboteurs and spies into remote sites. They would also shuttle the brass, deliver classified battle plans and or messages to the front, rescue downed pilots, and any other task that could be accomplished only in a light single-engine aircraft made in the 40s. And they were usually covered in fabric, steel tube frames, sometimes wooden wings, wood spars in the wings. These aircraft were called L-birds. A more popular name was Grasshopper. Their ability to get in and out of small fields was very much appreciated. They were generally civilian aircraft that were drafted and sometimes slightly modified for military service. These aircraft were built by Stinson, Piper, Aeronca, Interstate, Cessna, and de Havilland. Usually they didn't have a radio in them because of the weight factor. However, many of them were equipped with radios, especially when they were used for a forward artillery spotting. Now, our pilots here today, in the lead, we've got Eric Radilla, followed by Neil Bachman, Tom McIntyre, Joe Malinchek, and as tail end Charlie today, Jerry Wells flying that yellow Stinson 10A. Most of these aircraft were already in production as civilian airplanes, but Uncle Sam said, "We need you." Oh, listen to this. That's Yankee Lady going out. You will see her fly later on today. Now these L-birds, you know, it's funny because the Germans had L-birds too. And the great thing about these birds is the fact that these airplanes could land and take off in a distance of about the size of a football field. They weren't fast, but the ability to get in and out of remote places really served them well. Here we go. In the lead, it's Eric Radilla. My buddy Neil Bachman from the Golden Age Air Museum's flying aircraft number 2 there. Tom McIntyre is in the middle, followed by Joe Malinchak. And playing the part of tail end Charlie, that's the nickname given for the last guy in the formation, is Jerry Wells. You will see Jerry Wells fly again later today in a slightly different yellow aircraft. Now, there is a legend out there, and it took me a little while to dig up some information on this guy. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Bazooka Joe bubblegum. Did you know there was a guy by the name of Bazooka Charlie? I'll bet you didn't. Charles Bazooka Charlie Carpenter was a native of Edgington in South Rock Island County, out of Danville, Kentucky. Now here's the crazy thing. This man had initiative. And what he used to do is he'd fly his L-bird around. Sometimes he would land and join in the battle if he happened to come across one. He had a rifle inside of his airplane. He'd land, grab his rifle, join the battle. Well, his commanding officer didn't appreciate it. Made it very clear that Charlie wasn't supposed to do that anymore. Well, he didn't listen. As a matter of fact, he went in and took it a step further by putting 3 bazookas under each wing. Now, the great thing about the bazooka is it's electrically fired. So all he had to do was get some wires and some switches, and he was ready to go. The crazy part about it is this guy actually was very effective. Called his airplane Rosie the Rocketeer. He went out looking for German armor, and doggone if he didn't find it. And he would line up on these things and he'd take pot shots at them. And he never got fired back at. the Germans apparently were pretty surprised. Of course, one of the other things the Germans considered was that if you fired on one of these L-birds, typically they would get on their radio and call in a artillery strike against them. Ruh-roh, not a good move. Well, anyway, he got into a little bit of trouble on a friendly fire incident, was about to be court-martialed when General Patton stepped in and said, wait a minute, this man showed initiative. We're going to promote him. By the end of the war, he got promoted to major. Actually, by the end of the war, he was Lieutenant Colonel Carpenter, awarded the Bronze Star, the Air Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, the Silver Star with the Oak Leaf Cluster. He is credited with taking out several German armored cars, and he immobilized at least 14 tanks, of which he's credited with officially destroying a pair of Tiger I tanks. This guy showed a lot of guts. These airplanes, as you can see, they're not exactly what you call fast. Cruising speed of about 55 miles an hour, typically less than 100 horsepower on board, burning about 4 gallons of gas an hour. You could fly low and slow with these airplanes, which actually works to help conceal you from the enemy. And once again, that steel tube, wood wing, fabric covering all made them easy to repair in the field should they get damaged. Now, Bazooka Charlie was so successful that he had 2 more aircraft that were equipped with bazookas, and they were flown by Major, Second Lieutenant Roy Carlson, Second Lieutenant Harley Merrick. So at one time, there were 3 of these airplanes running around, making life difficult for the Germans. Well, they deserved it.